Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of... I haven't held that one that long in a while. The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, the Quinn. At least that's how I'm known here on the program. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. We are back, baby. UMC is back. Very excited to be here. Of course, you just heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I am joined by a good friend of the show, an old friend of the show, a good friend of the show who actually hasn't been on as a guest since our OG run. Actually, fun fact, the first ever musical guest on the Quinn Spinn in our OG run. We have Mr. Adam Lawrence from the Mad Sugars joining us. Adam, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to be here. It's been 10 years since you were on the show, so
yeah.
I figured we were due for an update, and you've got a lot of excitement happening. So pleasure to have you here at Helping Our Music Evolve right here in the heart of East Nashville. And why don't we reintroduce you to the folks I'm not editing that, by having you answer the three standard questions. Those three questions being, who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
So my name's Adam Lawrence. I'm the frontman of the Mad Sugars. It's pretty much my songwriting vehicle. There's been an ever rotating cast of supporters, but I hope the current incarnation stays as is because I have a really great band. I'm originally from New Jersey.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We go way back.
7th grade, to be
exact. I started writing songs. Well, I wrote joke songs in high school with my pop punk band.
Do we want to talk about those?
Maybe for another time.
Okay, maybe later.
But I started really seriously pursuing songwriting like on my own. Like after I finished college, I was actually 24 years old, so I guess I was a late bloomer in that regard. But I put together the Mad Sugars after my previous band had kind of fallen into inactivity. And there's more to the story, but I guess I got to answer these questions first, right?
Yeah. So what are your passions?
My passions. Well, I mean, there's the obvious one, music.
Yeah. No.
I feel like that's all my life is about sometimes. So
that's usually where people sitting in that chair start.
Yeah. But I a big thing that I've learned, and I actually think my songwriting revolves around, like on the surface level, I call it nightlife misadventures. Mm-hmm. Funny anecdotes you tell your friends about a night out you had, something crazy that happened. But especially in recent years, I think just kind of really learning who you are. I think all those crazy stories play into helping you learn who you are. So I'd say a passion of mine is that really the self-discovery aspect,
the personal development journey. Yeah.
Because we all have one, and whatever your expectations were for your night out, you usually don't meet them.
Right.
But you learn other lessons in various ways. So
yeah,
I think that's something I think I like doing, is helping people kind of learn who they are
and learn that there's more than that. And it's funny because I have intimate knowledge of this process because especially the earlier material often referenced nights out that we both shared together out in Morristown, New Jersey at the Grasshopper off the Green in particular. And you look back at those times and you're like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea who I was. I wouldn't go back to be that person ever, but you had to experience it in order to go from point A to B and B to C and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And I'd say there's an advantage because I'm not, a spring chicken anymore in the music scene. I've been doing this a while, so I think my age now is kind of an advantage in learning this stuff and teaching it to others, or just expressing it to others.
Absolutely. Imagine that, age being an advantage in the music industry. The game
Right?
is changing, people. The game is changing. So why on earth would you get all dressed up and want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
It's a really good question.
Right?
Well, it's been a while. I was like the first guest.
Yep.
So, we have both ended up in the same place after a decade. So I figured maybe it's time to check in.
Absolutely. And that episode, that was a fun episode because we conducted that episode before we were even recording in the basement, in Mom's basement studios. We crammed like 11 of us into my brother's room.
Yeah.
It was very tight. And like, you're talking like 11 people, plus you guys all had instruments.
Yeah.
Or some kind of percussion. And like, it was so hot in there. I remember it was like December, the heat was on, and everybody was just crammed into this cramped little room for like 2.5 hours. and we pulled it off. But here in much more comfortable confines, I would say.
Yeah.
So, and you dress for the occasion. I feel underdressed now,
I mean, it's the look. You got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always dressed like this.
Yeah. You just have a whole closet you open like Doug Funny, and
Yeah.
every outfit is that suit.
Yeah.
And those exact shoes and everything. What to wear. Well, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And so, like you mentioned, there's been a long and serendipitous journey in a lot of ways from, of course, those early days in New Jersey. With that pop punk band that I guess we won't name on this episode. That'll be a Quinn Spinn exclusive later on our OnlyFans. But just kidding, we don't have one yet. But from, of course, the New Bedfords, which was your project before this, falling into inactivity, the Mad Sugars came out of that time in New York City. And then that was around like 2012, 2013, right?
Yeah.
And then following the trail all the way from there to Nashville, the lineup changes, of course, that occur when you move halfway across the country. And even updates to your style, updates to your sound, and what different players have brought in and out, as time has gone on. Take us through that journey from the beginning of the Mad Sugars up to the present day.
Yeah. So I'm gonna borrow a quote. Someone quoted it to me, attributing it to Loretta Lynn. If we want to keep it country here in Nashville.
Yeehaw.
She said, "All you need to start are 3 chords and a broken heart." So that's pretty much what happened to me. I had a thing with a girl and it fell apart, and I started writing songs. When it became clear that the band I was playing in, activity was dropping off. The other members were, having lives.
As tends to happen in your mid-20s. Yeah.
So I ordered the cheapest left-handed acoustic guitar on Guitar Center's website, and I just like forced myself to start learning how to play because years before in elementary and middle school I tried guitar, but I couldn't do it because your hands are too small usually, so it gets frustrating doing the bar chords. But anyway, I started writing songs. It's mostly kind of stuff about girls like usual, just with a little bit more of a mature lens than the pop punk days.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
So I kind of push myself out of my comfort zone, which is something you have to do as an artist. I mean, it's a life thing. It's not just an artist thing. But once I had enough to play a short set, I played a solo acoustic act opening for a friend in New York. And that was just getting over the jitters of being in front of a crowd, not behind a drum set, because I was a drummer originally. I still play, but it's the singing drummer thing. It usually doesn't work unless you're I don't know, Phil Collins,
Zach Hansen,
or Don Henley. But even they get out from behind the kit. So
right.
So once I had enough for a set list, I put together a band. It was basic 4-piece rock band, kind of a power pop, Jimmy Eat World, Weezer, simple pop rock stuff. And we started playing shows, playing to the rooms full of 2 or 3 people in North Jersey. And we played a few dates in New York.
There was that one room in Passaic that I ventured to, and I don't remember what it was, but I remember it was like just this dive bar, and you guys were in the back.
Was that?
I don't know.
Was that Loop Lounge?
Yeah, Loop Lounge. Yeah, that was the one.
That was with the New Bedfords.
Oh,
yeah.
That was with the New Bedfords. Okay.
Yeah.
Those years kind of all blur together for me. Like
yeah, they do.
10 and like 13.
Yeah. So, I recorded 2 songs which were put out officially. Save Your Breath, Scene of the Crime. You can still listen to them on Spotify. It is not representative of our sound these days, though.
Yeah, it's way different now.
Yeah. I recorded 2 more that never got released, but one got reworked and eventually released. That's the song Crazy But Sweet. It's the oldest song we still play from time to time.
Yep. And fun fact, the first ever song played on the Quinn Spinn.
Yeah.
On episode 1.
And we had to bring it back for the 10-year showcase in September.
Yeah,
so.
Cobra. Crazy But Sweet started off your set.
Yeah.
The first band ever featured, the first band ever interviewed, plays the first song ever played.
Yep.
Or performed on the Quinn Spinn. It was a very full circle moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the chronology here.
So yeah, I mean, you had New York, you had that era, right? Where you're really finding your way, from that early sound, that writing about girls to shifting into the nightlife misadventures, and, from there, change out some members, change locations, come all the way here to Nashville in 2017. You moved here the year before I did.
Yeah.
And then for a while, the project was kind of dormant as far as new material. So what about moving to Nashville, and what about, these surroundings inspired you to pick it back up and to start writing and performing again as the Mad Sugars and really putting this band together in the form that it is now?
Yeah. Part of it's just being, in a place that's so focused on music. There's just a greater feeling of inspiration. And, part of the reason my wife and I, she wasn't my wife at the time, but she was about to be.
Hi, Anna.
Part of the reason why we left New York is because we were just so tired of the grind. It just got difficult to really do much of anything besides work and, drink.
That's pretty much the lifestyle there after a while.
So when I came here, even though it took a while to start meeting people, start making connections, I'm not an outgoing person who pounds the pavement immediately. But in those first few months, I just found myself writing again after, kind of a break. So I started to kind of put together the songs of what is going to be this upcoming full-length album. Some were actually written as far back as 2015, living in New York. So
right, and inspired by that time and the nightlife misadventures of that time.
Yeah. So whereas some of the earliest stuff I put out was inspired by, as we talked about before, nights out in Morristown. The album songs are more about time out in New York before I moved there. So at this point, it's kind of far in the past, but it's an important time.
And you're able to see it now through a fresh lens that maybe, whereas the character presented, this version of you in the songs, was like living in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And was like in it, thinking it was the biggest thing in the world, what had happened from night to night, weekend to weekend. Now you're looking at it through this more mature, objective lens, right? And it's like, and you're kind of able to listen along to the lyrics and to the stories and be like, oh, this guy's doomed. This guy's doomed. Like, what's coming before it comes, but you're excited to just listen and make sure that you're right, know? it's really, a clever way to present it, because, and accessible too, because on one hand, the people who are still in that party mode at that point in their life are going to be like, well, this is my anthem, man. And the people, who are more our age and up are going to be like, crazy kids, So there's something to enjoy there, I think, for no matter who you are, and no matter what your life experience has brought you.
Yeah. And something I like to do is I don't always just write songs that are just these standalone things. I like to kind of plan out a full story. So like the first 2 EPs we put out were actually meant to be a full-length album, but just because of being a poor 20-something, I split up the project. But the Amateur Hour and Last Call EPs are actually meant to be one story, and it was a little different. It wasn't just one character's night. It was like a group of characters, kind of like little vignettes of each of what they go through. Mm-hmm. So when I started writing for this this upcoming album, that was how I first approached it, but then I realized it could all work just as one story. Mm-hmm. So it follows like a guy and a girl and like their night out. So
right. And I think it's, you mentioned like the continuity and the long-term storytelling, Queen of the Club Part 1, Queen of the Club Part 2, and there's a Part 3 now coming.
Yes.
So there's that sense of lore, to these stories, that follows you, on your journey from, Jersey to New York, and then maybe in the future, starting to get into this Nashville era a little bit. But
yeah,
there's so much depth to this, but at the same time, the accessibility, the anthemic properties of the songs, it's good, just danceable rock and roll, that, again, like, no matter who you are, where you are, I think you're really going to enjoy it, get something out of it. What you get out of it, I think, depends where you are in life.
Yeah.
So let's give some love to your band, because like you mentioned, you have some tremendous players and singers as well. Of course, we got to give a shout out to the Sugar Cubes as well as the instrumental players in your band. But what do the different members add to the mix here? Because you've got, of course, a duo or trio of backing vocalists, depending on the night and availability, because we're all busy, in this town with a million different gigs. And you've got some really, really, really talented, high-level players in your band. So let's give some love and, talk about their contributions a little bit.
Okay. Well, part of that kind of goes back to just how the project evolved. We didn't always have backup singers. That's actually probably one of the biggest things we picked up during the New York phase. So before we get to the present members, I want to give a shout out to some of the past members. My bass player, Eli, during the New York era, I played guitar at the time. His sister, Sarah, came to every show. And at some point, she just asked if she could join us to sing backing vocals, because at the time, nobody did.
Right.
Even though there were some, at least like simple backing parts. So we got her to come in. And with her coming in, then my wife, Anna, wanted to join and sing. So the two of them started doing backing parts. And Sarah was just so great at coming up with interesting backing vocal parts. So it wasn't just like basic harmonies. She was adding in all sorts of stuff. So the backing vocal part became part of the sound. So when it came time to reform the band here in Nashville, there was kind of a pre-pandemic and now a post-pandemic lineup. So I want to give a shout out to my current lineup. I have Gracie Calvinesso, Chelsea Jett, and Allison Rogers currently on backing vocals. They're all incredible. I met Gracie because I was looking for a voice teacher, and she taught like just down the street from me at the time. She was in East Nashville, and then she introduced me to Chelsea and Allie. So they are the backing vocalists. And then
featured as well. We should mention featured as well on some songs that already released and to be released on the upcoming album.
Yes. Gracie is a duet partner on our reboot version of Press Play.
Mm-hmm.
And Chelsea is a duet partner on the song Sweatpants, which was the first song released for what will be this album.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna get Allie something soon. We'll see.
Always more songs to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, and each one of them does add something unique to the mix, and it's like we say backing vocalists, but each one of them has a presence and has like a distinct part that they play, in the overall experience of not only these songs, but the live performance as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of the live performance, you've got, again, some very high level players, with some serious chops, not only in terms of technical skill, but stage presence. So let's give some love to some of them.
Yeah. So on lead guitar is Spencer Woodley.
Mm-hmm.
He is actually one of the longest running people I've played with here in Nashville. He and I joined Luca DiFabio's band in the first year of us living in Nashville, so that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
On rhythm guitar is Alex Smith, just a solid guy all around. He's an amazing singer also, but we have enough vocalists currently. But maybe if we really want to pursue like, I don't know, Beach Boys type harmony stuff, we can work him in. And we got Emmett Roselle on drums. Again, just awesome drummer. He plays downtown. He also has his own project called Grease Diver. He does it all too, writes songs, plays the instruments, all that stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. So from one era to the next, through all the lineup changes, the sonic changes, the things that you've learned, the ways you've developed as an artist, as a person, as a professional, pursuing this. And one thing I want to point out too is you have always been very meticulous, and like detail oriented about ways to just get better incrementally. Like that's one thing I can say, knowing you since 7th grade, is you have always been very about your business and very, very focused. Adam's one of the most focused individuals I've ever met in my life. And it shows in everything that he does, and so, getting to this point where you have all of this so dialed in, you have the sound, you have this lineup, you like the Mad Sugars, I feel like are better defined in what they are than perhaps they've ever been.
Yeah.
If there's one lesson that you could share, that somebody, just starting out would benefit from, what would that be?
I would say there's a big component of getting over fear.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've said I'm not the most outgoing person, and doing music, any sort of the arts, you have to put yourself out there, and like ask for what you want. So I think part of that is like, in the current incarnation of the band, I finally, like, I know what I want. I know what I want from my members, from my writing, like I know all that. But I think for a long time there was a fear of like, upsetting people or, someone who plays well with you might quit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just things like that.
Yeah. I mean, there are always those unknown variables that we all face on the creative journey. And fear of upsetting people. I think we all have to get over a sense of people pleasing somewhere along the line. I know that's true for me, and realizing that, you might have something really dialed in, but life takes us in different directions. You've navigated those lineup changes. And I think the important overarching lesson, is that change is going to be a constant no matter what you pursue. It's really the only constant, and so how you adjust to that change ultimately determines how long you stay in the game and how well you do playing it. I feel like it can derail us if our focus is on things always remaining the same and things always remaining, just as we like them. But the change presents a challenge to us.
Yeah.
And so it's really a matter of how well we're willing and able to rise to that challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And also I think staying steadfast in your creative vision through it all, I think is very important.
Yeah. Knowing what that is too.
Yeah.
That's such an important thing, is knowing who you are at your core, knowing the story that you want to tell, knowing the things that you want to express and connect to your audience, because that's going to help you understand your audience, and it's also going to help them connect better with you. So no matter what, you have that consistency. You know, you think of the artists who last over time. I say this all the time on the show, who endure through different stylistic changes, endure through different decades and eras. You know, one of them just, you know, is in the middle of her Eras tour right now. Like, the thing that stays common is them and how they connect with their audience. You know, you can think of any example that's been around for 15, 20, 30, 40 years at a high level, continuing to grow, continuing to do new things, continuing to impact hundreds of thousands, millions through their music every tour. It's those who knew who they were and knew how to communicate that at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Right. It's, you know, trends, styles, all of that changes. all of that fades. And if you're chasing a trend, or if you're trying to just do something that's being done or that somebody else has done before, that's going to run out of steam. You need to connect to those values, and you need to remain, as you said, steadfast in those, because that's ultimately what's going to carry you forward. And that's ultimately what your true fans are going to, they're going to take that ride with you because of that, and not because of what you sound like or look like or anything in any particular era.
Yeah.
You know, you think of Bowie, who changed all the time,
Yeah.
you know, and known as one of the greatest creative minds this industry has ever seen. He didn't stay the same, you know, but also, like, he knew that through his platform, like, he could find different ways to express things, find different ways to express that truth and those core values, and stay connected. And people connected with that sense of artistic freedom that came back to David Bowie being David Bowie.
Yeah.
You know, so it's an important lesson, you know, to really understand that. And the sooner you can understand it, I think the better, you know, because especially in this industry, and especially if you're coming to Nashville super young, say, and you're just like chasing the dream, you know, trying to get discovered, there are going to be a lot of people who try to tell you what it should be.
Yeah.
Who try to tell you, oh, it needs to be this, the songs need to be this long, they need to sound like this, your image needs to be this. But if that's not in alignment, you know, you might have the flash in the pan, but eventually it's going to catch up to you, and it's going to leave you feeling unfulfilled.
Yeah, and I think that's a contributing factor to why I am, you know, now at the age I am, like, finally pursuing this, is that I'm trying to, like, I've shut out all the noise of, like, what XYZ should be, and just how I want it to be is what matters ultimately.
Because there's an audience for it.
Yeah.
And now you get to focus on finding that audience for your thing and not trying to fit in with another audience. You know, you are being true to yourself, and look, not everyone's going to pick up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
But as the saying goes, if it's for everybody, it's for nobody.
Yeah.
And there's so much focus on doing things just for numbers, just for clout, to get big, right? But those numbers go away. Those numbers might not even mean anything, depending on how you acquired them on social media or streaming or whatever.
Yeah.
It really comes down to how are you connecting and how are you building community with those people over time to where they're going to walk with you on this journey, no matter what turn it takes.
Yeah.
That's the important part. Let's talk about the album. So a few singles out already.
Yep.
From this forthcoming record. And so I'll let you tell us about the plans for it, as well as the title, what we can expect, when we can expect it.
Okay. Well, the album is going to be called Personal Space. It is going to be a 12-song concept album. It's a story, again, about a weekend out heading into New York, kind of after experiencing a quarter-life crisis, and just, you know, songs based off of my experiences during that time when I didn't live in the city yet, but I was spending a lot of time there. And currently you can hear 4 of the songs from the album. They're up on all streaming platforms. In release order, there's Sweatpants, the duet with Chelsea Jett. There is New York Girls. There is We Want the Night and Hello, New Jersey, which came out in May.
Mm-hmm. And that one has a little bit of like that pop punk edge that really comes into play here, you know, hearkening back to those days that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're going to see like a lot of versatility, you know, just in those 4 songs alone. Like you have the pop punk edge of that, Hello New Jersey and a little bit on New York Girls. I would say New York Girls is definitely more of a driving alternative song, but there's a little bit of that pop punk element.
Yeah.
You know, you have, of course, like soul, you know, that funk rock kind of the dance rock sensibility sneaking in on Sweatpants, on We Want the Night, you know, so there's a lot going on here musically and more to come. 8 more songs still to be released, other special features as well on vocals. And I do want to say the artwork for this is fantastic. Really
I wonder who did them.
I don't know. I mean,
artwork.
I hope I remember to do this. Let's pull it up, you know, on the feed here. Look at that artwork. That is fantastic. I hope I remember to edit that in. Wow. What a genius graphic designer you have for this project, I must say.
Yeah.
I must say. So what about plans to release? Are there any yet?
So the plan is release in March, sometime around the 21st or 22nd, and followed by a release show in April. As of this interview, I don't have a confirmation, but hopefully a venue in East Nashville will be hosting. I don't know. Should I can I say where?
Yeah, you can say where. As long as you know where and they know where.
Okay.
I don't see any harm.
I don't have the confirmation yet, but the 5 spot in April. So, you know, follow for more once I get that confirmed.
All right. Well, stay tuned. And where can they stay tuned and learn more about you?
We are on all social media platforms as @TheMadSugars, all one word. Most active on Instagram and TikTok, but TikTok is kind of a different vibe than Instagram. If you just want news, go to Instagram.
There we go. So beyond the album, beyond the release show, pending for April, what's on the horizon? What does the future hold? What are your plans, goals, hopes, dreams for the Mad Sugars?
Well, we're going to, I forgot to mention, we're going to shoot a video for one of the other songs on the album. So the plan is to release that alongside the album release. But looking beyond the album, I would like to spend the spring and summer doing some regional tours, you know, long weekends out in surrounding cities, and really get back to writing. I want to make the next project more collaborative with my bandmates, and the theme is songs about summer.
There we go. I love it. I love some good summer songs.
Yeah.
I'm ready. So, well, thank you so much for coming on, Adam. Adam Lawrence of the Mad Sugars joining us, the first ever musical guest on the Quinn Spinn, joining us 10 years later in a completely different environment that's a lot less cramped.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you here. Hope you enjoyed this episode. There's a little Easter egg for you from the Moravian days. Did we even mention that you're one of the few people who understands the prehistoric days of this show?
No, we didn't.
I don't. Well, if we're leaving the pop punk band from high school out, I don't know if I want to go there. I don't know if we're gonna leave that out. I think I should leave this out. But yeah, you would listen every week back in the Moravian University days on WRMC, the voice of Moravian College.
Yep.
The Quinn Spinn and its predecessor Dominic and the Quinn, and all of its zany moments that will never see the light of day. Not trying to get canceled again. Anyway, this has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and more. Also on Instagram Quinn Spinn Official. Again, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. And Facebook's been popping off too ever since I discovered that whole followers tag thing that you can do. So that actually really helps. Like tagging all your followers. Like people come to the page and then you know, and then some you didn't know we're following the page, start posting weird things in the comments. It's great. Anyway, Underground Music Collective, our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. Find us on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, even though actually, as of airing, this is a few weeks from now, we'll have been able to change it back over from ECM Collective. We're on X, although I'm not really active there, so I don't know if we're on X. LinkedIn, YouTube. Follow the UMC 20 playlist on Spotify, because that's back by now. And go to musiccollective.com for our central hub for all of those things. Revel 9's All I Become. Going to take us out like it brought us in. The end instead of the beginning. Grab some muffins on your way out.